Alrighty guys, so we are going to try this. This is our lesson for March 17th. We are reviewing how to factor complex trinomials. So this was the same topic that we talked about on Friday. You have a lesson check tomorrow. That is a Google form and that is on the Canvas calendar. So let's see if we remember. Step 1 of factoring, always check for a GCF. Anything in common between 2, 13, and 20? Nope, nothing goes into all three. I can't take out an X because I do not have an X in every single term. So I do not have a GCF. Can't do anything in terms of taking out a GCF. I can't go straight to my double bubble. Let me remember why. Why can't I go straight to my double bubble? Because of that 2 in front. If I'm looking for two numbers to multiply to 20 and add to 13, I'm not going to find them. So I can't ignore that 2. I have to incorporate it. So I'm drawing my rainbow, connecting my 2 to my positive 20. And when I multiply those two values, I get a positive 40. So that is the number that I'm looking for, two things that multiply to 40. And because the 40 is positive, they're going to add to negative 13. So multiply to 40 and then add to negative 13. Always willing to list out all of my factors. So I have 1 and 40, 2 and 20. Does 3 go in? No. 4 and 10. Let's see, 5 and 8. 6 doesn't go in, 7 doesn't go in, and I'm back at 8. Alrighty, so I'm looking for a pair that'll add to negative 13. Here's my winners, 5 and 8. If they're both negative, let me check. Negative 5x minus 8x, yep, that gives me a negative 13x, which is exactly what I'm looking for inside. So I am going to rewrite my trinomial as an equivalent polynomial with 4 terms, because then I can factor by grouping, right? Love me some factor by grouping. So all I've done is replaced negative 13x with negative 5x and negative 8x. Those things are equivalent, so it's legal that I have done that. These two lines are 100% equivalent. Now I have my 4 terms. I cut it down the middle. I'm looking for a GCF just of my first 2 terms. And the only thing these 2 terms have in common is an X. So I'm going to take out an X from both of those 2 terms. When I do that division, I'm left with a 2X. When I do negative 5X divided by X, I'm left with minus 5. What do I have in common with these 2? Well, 8 and 20, I can take out a 4. But more importantly, hopefully I remember when my first term's negative, which my negative 8x looks negative to me, I should be taking out a negative as part of my GCF. The other way to remember why am I taking out that negative 4, I want this to say what? What am I expecting to see here? I'm expecting to see positive 2x minus 5. How am I going to get a positive 2x here if I don't take out that negative? So when I reduce this fraction, I am in fact left with 2x positive, which is exactly what I wanted. And when I do 20 divided by negative 4, I do get negative 5, which is exactly what I wanted. I do see the same thing repeat. That means I did everything correctly. So what's my final answer going to look like? I group together my GCFs. I copy down the thing that repeated. And this is my final answer that I'm going to box because I'm getting in that habit. I can check my answer by doing a double distribute. X times 2x gives me a 2x squared. Negative 4 times 2x gives me a negative 8x. And a negative 5x will give me a negative 13x, which I'm looking for. And negative 4 times negative 5 gives me that positive 20. So this does look like it in fact works. Let's try another one. So I take a look. GCF. Nothing goes into 7, 24, and 9. Can't take out an X because I don't have an X in every single term. But I have that 7 there, which tells me I can't go directly to my double bubble. So I'm not going to ignore my 7. I'm going to incorporate it. Now our numbers are getting bigger. I told you they would, right? You didn't trust me. 7 times positive 9 gives me a positive 63. And I can check that on my calculator if I'm afraid I'm wrong. What are my factors of 63? Well, maybe I need my calculator. Good thing I have my calculator here, right? So 63, 1 and 63, right? 2 doesn't go in. Does 3 go in? Yes. So 3 and 21. Does 4 go in? No. Does 5 go in? No. Does 6 go in? No. Does 7 go in? 7 and 9. Okay. Those are my only factors of 63. So not only am I looking for them to multiply to 63, what else am I looking for? Well, they need to multiply to 63, and because that 63 is positive, they're also going to add to 24. So multiply to 63, add to 24. So I need a pair that adds to 24, and I think I found it with 3 and 21. They need to be the same sign because when I multiply them, I need to get a positive 63. And when I add them, I have to get a positive 24, which tells me they're both positive. What is positive 3x plus positive 21x, positive 24x? That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I am going to take that 24x and I'm going to replace it with a positive 3x and a positive 21x, not caring where I put each, doesn't matter. Like I said, I will typically have my smaller numbers written on the left because this is how I list my factors. I don't randomly list my factors because then I might leave some out. There's a method to my madness, right? My 7x squared comes down, my plus 9 comes down, my first and last terms unchanged. It's just that middle term that I'm now writing as 2 terms to create my factor by grouping setup, my 4 terms that I want for factor by grouping. Slice it down the middle. What do my first 2 terms have in common? Just an x. And look at me showing my GCF work, right? I'm left with 7x plus 3. My second 2 terms, what do they have in common? What goes in to both 21 and 9? 3. Be careful. It's not just that the smaller number has to go into the bigger. 9 doesn't go into 21. That doesn't mean they don't have a common factor, right? There could be something smaller than both of them that goes into both. A different number, like 3. So I'm taking out a positive 3. Do you have that plus sign on your paper, right? It's got to say plus 3. What am I left with when I take out that 3? Let's see. 7x plus 3. Oh, goody. That's exactly what I wanted to see, right? That repeated. That means I didn't make a mistake. I don't think so. All right. So let me see. Final step. Group together my GCFs, x plus 3. Copy down that thing that repeated. That's my final answer. Box it. Check my work. X times 7x, 7x squared. Positive 21x and positive 3x gives me a positive 24x. And 3 times 3 gives me positive 9. So what have we not reviewed yet? We haven't reviewed. What if that last term's negative? Things are going to change. My language is going to change. So let's take a look at some of those. So I have example 3 for you. Look at that minus sign in that last spot. So again, no GCF, 7, 10, and 8, nothing in common. Can't take out an x because I don't see one in all 3 spots. Incorporate that 7. Multiply 7 times negative 8. Okay, I might need my calculator. This one's going to be a little tougher. So 7 times negative 8, negative 56. Okay. So that means they're going to multiply to 56. But because that 56 is negative, I shouldn't say add to 10 because they're not going to add to 10. They're going to be different signs. They're going to multiply to give me a negative. So they will have to be different signs. So when I combine those terms that have different signs, I'm actually subtracting because one will be positive and one will be negative. So I want to change that language. Make sure you have this on your paper. Difference of 10. I want to make sure I'm finding those proper numbers. They have to have a difference of 10, not add to 10. What are my factors of 56? I got 1 and 56. What do I have? 2 and 28. Okay, typing this in. I'm checking myself, right? Does 56, is that divisible by 3? No. How do I know? Because my calculator gave me a decimal when I typed it in. Let's see. How about by 4? Can I divide it by 4? Oh, 4 and 14. What am I looking for again? A difference of 10. That's my winner. 4 and 14 have a difference of 10. Stick those x's with them. Different signs because they're going to multiply to a negative. But when I combine those like terms, I have to get a positive 10. So which one's going to be positive? Let me think about this. My result has to be positive. So which one's going to be positive? The bigger number, the 14. Negative 4 plus 14 will give me a positive 10. A positive 4 and a negative 14 would give me a negative 10, and that's not what I want. So I'm replacing my positive 10, again, I don't care what order I write it in, with a negative 4x and a positive 14x. My 7x squared comes down unchanged, my minus 8 comes down unchanged, and I'm ready to factor by grouping 4 terms. Cut it in half. What do my first two terms have in common? Just an x. I'm showing that work, writing what's left over. What do my second two terms have in common? Just a 2, right? Positive 2. So I have a plus 2 there. And what am I left with? 7x minus 4. Good, because that's what I was looking for. Group together the two things, my two GCFs. Group together or rewrite the thing that repeated. Let's try one more, again with a negative in there. So that last term's negative. So let's see. Rainbow, negative 30, right? 5 times negative 6. Okay, they're going to multiply to 30, but because the 30 is negative, they're going to be different signs. And if they're different signs, they're not going to add to 13. They're going to have a difference of 13. This is one of those ones, if you don't change that language, you will get it wrong. Because when I list my factors of 30, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Guess what? There's a pair on that list that add to 13, 3 and 10. But if they have different signs, 3 minus 10 is not going to give me negative 13, and 10 minus 3 is not going to give me negative 13. I have to change that language so that I properly pick 2 and 15, because those are the two that will also give me a difference of 13. And I want the result to be negative. I want a negative 13x, which means which number is going to get my negative? The 15 is going to get my negative. The bigger number has to be negative. 2x minus 15x, negative 13x. Okay, so my 5x squared comes down unchanged. My negative 13x is being replaced with a positive 2x and a negative 15x, and my negative 6 comes down. Ready to cut it in half. GCF, 5x plus 2 left over. GCF, first term's negative. They also have a 3 in common. Negative 3 is what I'm taking out. Write negative 3 there. What's left over here? 5x plus 2. It's exactly what I wanted. Group together my GCFs. Rewrite the thing that repeated. We did it, guys. Great job.